Everyone dreams of owning a piece of paradise, right? And Bali, well, it certainly fits that picture. But looking at it realistically, is it just that? A dream? Or is it actually a savvy investment opportunity for you? Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the 2025 outlook for Bali's real estate market. We're using your curated sources and notes here. Our mission, to cut through all the hype, give you the essential nuggets if you're a foreign investor thinking about Bali, trying to separate the fantasy from the financial facts.
And what's really fascinating here, you see it in the sources, is how Bali's market is genuinely maturing. It's growing up in a way. It's driven by, yes, the strong return of tourism, definitely. But also there's this steady influx now of digital nomads, expats looking for longer stays.
Right.
And that's happening alongside ongoing infrastructure improvements. So it's not just some fleeting trend, It's creating a really dynamic environment.
Yeah, you can feel that shift. And digging into the data from our sources, we're seeing a really clear change in property types, too. These compact 1 to 2 bedroom properties are pretty much dominating transactions now, over 62% of sales. What's the story there? Is it just about being budget conscious?
Well, that's a great point. Budget is part of it, sure, but it's not the whole picture.
Yeah.
This shift to smaller units, it really reflects changing demographics, different lifestyle trends. You've got more digital nomads, maybe couples, even smaller families. They're looking for efficient, modern spaces, easier to manage, easier to maintain. And it also kind of hints at a focus on higher occupancy per unit, maybe, which is important for rental income.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And the sources, they also highlight something else quite striking. Apartments are rapidly gaining traction. We're talking about 56% year on year. That's significant. And here's where it gets really interesting. Off-plan investments have surged dramatically, like up a massive 180%. What should you know about that kind of, explosive growth?
Yeah, that 180% surge, it sounds incredible, doesn't it? And look, it does signal strong confidence in future growth, absolutely. But, and this is crucial, you have to understand the inherent risks with off-plan, especially in a market moving as fast as Bali's.
Right, you're buying a promise, essentially.
Exactly, a promise. Construction timelines, quality, these can vary. And while, yes, there's strong capital appreciation in prime spots like Canggu, Seminyak, we're seeing 7-15% annually. But our sources show something critical for you to think about: the rental market reality.
Okay. This is the race to the bottom in rental revenue you mentioned earlier when we were prepping.
Yeah.
The occupancy rates are actually going up, but the money coming in, the revenue is down 16%. What does that race to the bottom truly mean for an investor who's hoping for those really strong rental yields? And I guess, how can they avoid it?
It means exactly what it sounds like. While more people might be visiting or staying longer, there's also been a huge increase in available short-term rentals, loads more competition. So many owners are just dropping their prices to get bookings, and that leads to average returns after operational costs being much closer to maybe 4-6%, not the 10-15% you often see advertised.
Wow, quite a difference.
A big difference. So avoiding that downward pressure, you need a unique selling proposition, something special. Maybe it's exceptional design, premium services, a truly prime location that's hard to replicate. Or maybe you target a specific niche like wellness retreats or co-living for nomads rather than just, generic tourist rentals.
Okay, so boiling it down, what does this all mean for you if you're seriously looking to invest? The potential in Bali is definitely real, but it's absolutely critical to be well-informed, be strategic. It's certainly not a set it and forget it kind of deal. And when we talk strategy, understanding the legal side of things seems absolutely paramount. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Paramount. The sources couldn't be clearer on this. Direct freehold ownership, where you own the building and the land forever, that's strictly restricted for non-Indonesians. Full stop. So you need to understand and, crucially correctly, use the alternative legal structures. The most common, the most accessible is leasehold. You're essentially leasing the land long-term, maybe up to 80, even 100 years. This gives you the rights to use it, develop it, pretty much like you owned it, but the actual land title stays with an Indonesian owner.
Okay, leasehold. Got it. What else?
Then there's Hak Pakai. That translates roughly to right to use. It lets individuals, if you have a valid residence permit, use the land for up to 80 years. Or for bigger commercial projects, you might look at setting up a PT-PMA company. That's a foreign-owned limited liability company. And that company can hold Hak Guna Bangunan titles, which is like a right to build and use, also potentially up to 80 years. But what's absolutely vital to understand, and our sources highlight this as a major risk, is that nominee structures are illegal. That's where you try to get an Indonesian citizen to hold the title for you on paper. It's incredibly risky.
Illegal and risky. How risky?
You could lose everything, your entire investment, because the law simply doesn't recognize your claim if you use a nominee. No legal recourse.
Okay, that's a serious warning. And beyond just the legal structure itself, you've also got significant acquisition costs to factor in, right? Typically around 8-15% of the property value.
Yeah.
Plus a complex tax system, things like property transfer tax, rental income tax.
Exactly. Which is why rigorous due diligence is, as you said, non-negotiable. And that means independently verifying market data. Don't just trust the brochure. Check the land titles thoroughly for any issues, any claims, and absolutely engage reputable local professionals. You need a good notary, a specialized property lawyer. Get them to check everything before you commit a single dollar.
Makes sense. Proper checks and balance.
Ultimately, your success really hinges on meticulous planning, sticking strictly to these legal frameworks, and having a pragmatic, clear-eyed view of the market dynamics. Yes, property values might be appreciating nicely, but what does that race to the bottom in rental profits really tell you about the kind of long-term investment Bali supports right now? I'd suggest it's less about chasing quick, super high yields and more about strategic, performance-driven investment and really robust management after you buy. So the final thought for you is this. If your main goal is rental income, how will you genuinely make your property stand out in this increasingly crowded market? How will you avoid that downward price spiral and actually ensure sustainable long-term returns in your own piece of paradise?
DreamBaliHomes.com, where your Bali dreams come true.